Hello again. It's another Friday the 13th, so time to continue this tradition that I more or less stole from the Cinema Snob, where I try to review a Friday the 13th every time that particular day comes up. I've missed one or two, but back on track, and today I'm going to be talking about what is considered the worst and most hated of the original Friday the 13th series, Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. Jesus kicking an innocent puppy and molesting a kindergartner. Christ, is this movie bad. I haven't watched A New Beginning in many years, and for good reason. It just sucks. And I will admit, I am not the most diehard fan of the Friday the 13th franchise, but it's still a iconic slasher series, and I really enjoy many of the sequels, particularly 2 and 3, and despite its flaws, Part 6, and as retarded as they could get, Part 8 and Jason X were pretty enjoyable in the guilty pleasure sense, and there was a bit of self-awareness with Jason X. Friday the 13th Part 5, it is...
Eat your fucking slop.
And rewatching this movie tonight, I, for a while, thought, this isn't as bad as I remember. I mean, it's still fucking horrible, but it wasn't until the final 10 minutes that the true anger just came in. Like, up until the last 10 minutes, this movie was bad just in the sense that it felt lame and boring and just lacked any personality. But the final 10 minutes kind of feels almost insulting to anyone who enjoyed the series, and while Jason Goes to Hell could arguably be the most insulting of the series, that had some creativity to it, and just featured some freaky as fuck stuff that you had never seen in a Friday the 13th movie before, and an ending that just made sitting through that train wreck completely worth it. And A New Beginning suffers from a lot of problems that arguably the latter sequels also suffered from. But the difference is, a lot of those sequels were very well done, and at least, even if they were bad, they were fun. A New Beginning, it's one of those bad movies that's not enjoyably bad, it's just dull. You see, and I don't really consider this spoiling the last movie, because the last film was called The Final Chapter, or that's what they claimed it was going to be. The Final Chapter ended with Jason Voorhees supposedly getting killed for good. Of course, because every Friday film at the time was still bringing in a lot of money on very small budgets. There was no fucking way that Frank Mancuso Jr. was just going to let the franchise die. He had the same mindset of Mustafa Akkad with the Halloween franchise. Keep it going. And there is a little similarity with the Halloween franchise here, in the sense that after the supposed death of the series' main villain, they tried to do a sequel without him. Except, unlike the Halloween franchise, with Season of the Witch, A New Beginning still takes place in the same continuity as the earlier movies. That is, until Part 6 just retconned it and did the Highlander route of ignoring this particular sequel like it never fucking happened. Tommy Jarvis, the protagonist of the final chapter, has gone through years of therapy, And after staying in many mental institutions, he's taken to a halfway house and...
Last stop, everybody out. Hey. Beautiful. Sit there, I don't give a shit.
Tommy Jarvis is the only protagonist in the Friday the 13th series to come back repeatedly and not get killed off in the first 10 minutes. And I can kind of see why. The character had potential to be an ongoing main character. Unfortunately, except for the final chapter, they just never really used him that well, and...
What I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about Pinehurst, and then we'll let you get settled in your room. How does that sound? Sure.
I will give the actor who plays Tommy Jarvis in A New Beginning, John Shepherd, some credit. He is the best actor in this film. And while some of the supporting cast do have some reasonably good acted scenes, he's the only one that actually gives a decent performance that almost feels like it belongs in a much better written movie. Like, if this was a movie about mental health, patients in a mental hospital, I think John Shepherd could have gotten some recognition, and he also did some genuine work in trying to play this character. He volunteered, apparently, to work at a state mental hospital to really understand mentally ill people and how to play a patient suffering from, I guess, PTSD and just in a traumatized state and barely functioning. And
Hi, my name is Pam Roberts. I'm the assistant director. I'm glad you're here.
I will give him props and respect for that. He felt very genuine in how he plays character, and especially because he has almost no dialogue in this film. Anything he says is limited to about 3 or 5 words, sometimes just one word.
Tommy, would you mind telling Eddie to come downstairs? Yeah, all right.
Originally, Corey Feldman was going to be the star again, but at the time he was starring in The Goonies, so I guess because they thought there has to be a little bit of the 4th film in there, we get a pretty badly done opening scene where Buzz. Anyway, we get just a weird and annoying opening scene where Corey Feldman as Tommy runs through the rain to Jason's grave, and his whole cameo pretty much is just him going just wheezing and breathing badly. We see 2 guys come to dig up Jason's grave because they want to see what Jason looks like. And then it turns out the whole thing was a dream sequence, and we cut to the now late teen or young adult Tommy waking up. Just a really lame opening, wasting what little talent Corey Feldman still had at the time. And this place that they bring Tommy to, it's just not well run. When Tommy first arrives, the guy who runs the place, a guy named Dr. Letter, played by the guy who played the man that gave Indiana Jones his hat in The Last Crusade. Tells Tommy that there's no guards here and There's no one tells him what he can and can't do.
We don't have any guards here. Nobody's going to tell you what you can do or what you can't do. Basically, you're your own boss.
It's an honor system, Tommy.
It doesn't really seem like the doctors here, what little there are, really do much or help. It doesn't seem like there's any real programs. It's weird, like, what the fuck is done here? Like, what do these people do to help these troubled young guys? And a lot of shit happens here that makes me think, how the hell is this place running? Who supports this poorly run mental shithouse? Upon arriving, Tommy meets a whole batch of either socially awkward or mentally ill or just straight up retarded people. One of these characters is this little black kid named Reggie, played by Shavar Ross, who was a former child actor that appeared on the show Different Strokes as a friend of one of the main characters. This little kid, he is very annoying, just...
You scared of spiders? You scared of rubber spiders on strings? Man, you are one scared cat.
Why don't you take this?
Wow. Hey man, this is bad.
It's almost like they thought he would come off as cute, when really you just want to see him die. And the only time that he's not annoying or wasting screen time is when he comes across Jason at the end and he just lets out probably the biggest girly scream you've heard, at least until Daniel Stern in Home Alone, and I'll admit, that made me laugh. And we also get a unbelievably irritating young couple.
Everybody out. Cut out the fooling around. Follow in, bygones. Yes, sir. Just get moving, wise guy.
Eddie, played by John Robert Dixon, and Tina, played by the... And this is... this is fun just for the irony. Tina, played by Debbie Sue Voorhees.
Eddie, we can't. That'll kill us.
Fuck him.
Fuck you.
Exactly.
They get according to what I've read, an extremely edited sex scene that was supposed to be like 3 minutes, but the MPAA had them cut it down. Once again, seems like the censor cunts were finally starting to crack down on the horror films of the 80s. And this is a sad bullshit after the movie story. Debbie Sue Voorhees apparently went into teaching after making this movie, and if that's not sad enough, she lost more than one teaching job because they found her role in this movie where she shows her tits just to be, I guess, inappropriate. Tina gets a death scene that I'm a little half and half on. I was glad to see her die, but on the other hand, we don't actually see the full gore effect. We have to wait until her body's discovered. Eddie's death scene is a little more fun in the sense that it's so crazy and over the top. But on the other hand, it's so stupid that you just feel like, is this supposed to be a tense scene? The only other kids who are kind of worth mentioning are Violet, a punk chick, played by Tiffany Helm, and really isn't much to her. She dyes her hair and dances. If you're into goth punk chicks, I guess you might find her kind of cute, but really not much to her, and almost every death scene in the second half of the film is just super quick. They're so fucking fast that you just can't appreciate the full makeup work. Speaking of which, makeup done by Martin Becker, who also worked on a few other Friday the 13th sequels, a few Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. I don't really have much of a joke here, just interesting mix of work. We also get a kid named Jake. Sometimes I think I have a great name, other times I'm like, really, I gotta share it with these assholes. Played by Jerry Pavlon, and Jake, there's not much to him. He's just a stuttering dork.
I'm sorry. You don't set a place for a dead person.
I said I was sorry.
Who mentions to another girl named Robin, played by Juliette Cummings, that they've been there for 8 months. Once again, not very successful, this program.
We've been here nearly 8 months now, right?
And while watching a classic black and white movie called A Place in the Sun, he brings up the idea of them making love.
I really do want to be with you. I want to make love with you.
And she laughs obnoxiously at him.
I didn't mean it. I said I didn't mean it.
Which he takes as just a stab to the penis. But I don't really know much about them, and I haven't had a chance to really... They have had literally this much screen time before this supposed deep scene that just... One of the biggest problems with this movie is I can't care about these characters. There's really nothing to happen to make me care about any of these supposedly genuine moments that are going on. They just come out of nowhere. Another moment is like when Reggie talks with his grandpa, who just gives him a hug, kisses him, and makes a face that I guess was meant to be touching, but comes off as very creepy.
Go on and let everyone else know breakfast is ready.
And Reggie's brother,
Open up the door.
Oh my God, well get your ass in here, boy! Damn, you look good.
I know.
Oh God, look at this. God.
they have like this big, oh, I haven't seen you! And it's like supposed to be like this big emotional scene. Just comes right the fuck out of nowhere. And it's like, of all the deep emotional scenes that come in with no setup, this was the one that just kind of threw me off the most. Like, am I supposed to feel something right now?
What about you, brother? I know what you want. Want a beer?
Yeah, I'll take
Get out of here. I tell you what. Why don't you take this? Nothing is too good for my little brother.
You gonna give me this too?
The brother is played by cult actor Miguel A. Nunez Jr., who many people will know for Juana Man, Scooby-Doo, Harlem Nights, and Return of the Living Dead. Thank God he did Return of the Living Dead the same year A New Beginning came out, or this would not have been his year. I mean, this role, it's embarrassing, and not just in the poorly written 80s black guy role, and after the "I love you, my brother" scene, his character suddenly gets a case of the shits.
Oh, hey, you okay?
Oh, damn enchiladas!
We get a 5-minute scene of him sitting in an outhouse. Must have been a very silent but deadly run he was having, because I don't hear anything. And his girlfriend sits outside as he's taking a shit, just hitting the wall. She's trying to spook him, and
Hey, baby.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby.
Ooh, baby.
I don't know what to say, it's strange. Trying to have a cute couple moment while one is having diarrhea in an outhouse. And then it's hard to find a more embarrassing way to go than dying on the shitter. And I bet a lot of people are wondering right now, if Jason died in part 4, who the fuck is the killer in this movie? Well, the film tries to make it a mystery, and I know I'm repeating myself, but after a while you just don't care, and there's no suspense at all. And when they finally do reveal who the killer is at the end, it's a twist that was so lame that even the cast, while they were filming, knew that this was gonna suck when it played in the final film. The only other characters to really mention before I get into the spoilers, because there's some characters who I feel I really need to save for the spoilers in case anyone actually cares about not knowing the twist. We get these two redneck characters, a mother who looks like and sounds like Rhea Perlman if she grew up getting molested by her parents, named Ethel, played by Carol Locatell. This actress, she's clearly trying, but the writing she's given to work with.
Now, Sheriff, you better hear me and hear me good. I want this loony bin closed down. Now, these kids ain't nothing but trouble. They don't respect others' property, and they're all crazy. The next little bastard comes near my farm, I'm gonna blow your fucking brains out.
And in an embarrassingly bad scene, she threatens them with a bomb, which she claims she has on her, but you know she doesn't.
Don't you come near me, Sheriff, I warn you. I got a bomb on me. I swear to you. You make one move toward me, I'm gonna blow us all up.
And the only thing more embarrassing than the Ethel character is her son, played by Ron Sloan, simply called Junior Hubbard. If anything is more retarded than any of the patients at this place.
That is one fucking ugly man that goes there.
That's one fucking ugly man, Mom.
You know, you ain't so pretty yourself, you know.
I ain't so pretty myself, I know.
Just like, lady, what right do you have to call these people crazy or freaks when your son is probably the biggest crazy freak of them all.
Say it like you mean it, Ma.
Would you shut the fuck up?
And this character's levels of annoyance. While I've said a lot of these characters are annoying, this particular character, he's one of the few characters who, when he's annoying, I actually look forward to him dying. Everyone else was annoying in a way that just hurt the film. It was satisfying to see this big, blubbering tard just get the shit kicked out of him.
You're crazy from the loony bin. Fuck you, lunatic!
How he dies. Whew, whop! And before we get into the spoilers, here's a little commercial break.
For the past couple of years, I've been watching people on YouTube do review shows, where they give their thoughts as well as do a lot of comedy. People like the Nostalgia Critic, the Cinema Snob, the Blockbuster Buster, and so many fucking others. And like all these other movie reviewers, I've given myself a review nickname. It's something that I think will grab people's attention, will let you know immediately that I'm a movie guy. And it's a name I'm sure that no one else has thought of using. The Unusual Suspect. I don't want to sound too full of myself, but it just feels so great when you come up with something so original.
Babe, I think that there's something you should see.
Okay, time for the spoilers, and two patients at the house include a very overweight and socially unaware kid named Joey who physically kind of looks like a really fatter version of the Shelley character from Friday the 13th Part 3, played by the guy who allegedly molested Corey Haim, Dominic Brescia, who just walks around eating a chocolate bar, goes up to everybody, and unintentionally acts like a dick.
I'm really very good at doing laundry. It's really no problem.
Oh, Joey! Will you just get out of here?
If that's how you feel, forget it. I'll just go help somebody else instead.
We see this very beefy looking guy who looks like the oldest person there, named Vic, played by Mark Venturini. Sorry if I mispronounced that name. Who many would know as another actor from Return of the Living Dead, know as Suicide from Return. And his character is chopping wood with an axe in a way that, even before what happens, is very threatening.
Hi, Vic.
Vic just gets really annoyed with Joey.
I never really chopped wood before, but it certainly looks like fun. Leave me alone! Want a bite? Here. I'll just put it over here. And later on, when you're hungry, you can have it. Well, if that's the way you feel, Forget it, Vic.
Well, Vic is obviously a dangerous person who should be locked up. I was kind of on his side when this just socially and mentally retarded guy just kept pushing him and just was super fucking annoying. And this is the best scene in the movie for me. It's just so crazy.
You're really out of line.
I mean, it's moronic and out of nowhere, but it's funny. And we see this paramedic show up, who, upon looking at Joey's dead body, the twist at the end of the film is we see Jason appear and Tommy, who's been having nightmares about Jason throughout the film, confronts this apparent Jason in the barn next to the facility, where Reggie, in a ridiculously shot scene, tries to be the badass kid hero, and he looks fucking stupid. Tommy and this supposed Jason fight, and Reggie and Pam, played by Melanie Kinnaman, who, like everybody else, has so little that she's not really worth talking about, fight off Jason. And in was probably the most insulting of your intelligence moment of the Friday the 13th franchise. Jason is actually the paramedic from earlier, who we find out his name is Roy, and yeah, the killer of this film is named Roy. And Roy, turns out, was the father of the Joey character. He apparently abandoned him many years ago, but still cared about him, I guess. It makes no goddamn cocksucking, ass-raping sense. And the sheriff, pretty much on the spot, deducts exactly why Roy killed the way he did.
God only knows why Roy kept it hidden all these years. He was called to the scene and he saw that it was his own Joey, all hacked to pieces. We also found these. I guess he used the Jason thing to cover up with.
This ending is so goddamn moronic that I struggle to come up with any good analysis. I feel dumb for not being able to, and I kind of blame this movie. I challenge anyone to watch this movie all the way through and come out of it not feeling like they lost a few brain cells. I mean, I could see certain elements that were well done, like specific shots, but overall, and it's almost all entirely due to the last 10 minutes, this movie was just a complete waste of time. It's just embarrassingly lazy and poorly put together, and The writers of this film were Martin Kittrosser, David Cohen, and Danny Steinman, who also directed A New Beginning. And Danny Steinman, before this, the film he was best known for directing was Savage Streets with Linda Blair, and he never directed another film after A New Beginning. And before anyone says, well, no shit, because it sucked, it was actually because he was in a horrible bike riding accident that took him years to recover. The music was once again done by Harry Manfredini, and at this point, the music just doesn't have any more effect. There's only so many times you can go, but despite all those flaws, the film made $21.9 million on a $2.2 million budget. At least that's what I read. The final scene, which is kind of a multiple scene ending, where we get several fake outs, and I will give my last ounce of credit. The final scene actually features the only genuine jump scare, but even then, it's a fake out jump scare. So, there's not much credit you could really give it, but I will say, yeah, it did make me jump a little. But we get all these fake outs where it's implied that Tommy is going to be the new killer, and I get the feeling this is what they were going to go with if they continue this bringing in a new killer each film plot line. All you're going to be able to think with this fucking ending is, what is happening and why? Anyway, before I embarrass myself more, here's just a few trivia facts. Dick Weinard, who plays Roy the paramedic, is also credited as playing the fake Jason of this film, despite the fact that almost all the Jason scenes were played by Tom Morga, and he's uncredited. The whole thing just kind of reminds me of the Warrington Gillette and Steve Dash thing that happened with Part 2. A true Friday fan will know what I'm talking about. Violet's death scene was originally much more violent. She was supposed to be killed by getting stabbed in the crotch with a machete, and this is actually what they thought. They thought it was too tasteless. Go figure. The only really interesting fact I have about Melanie Kinnaman is her favorite scenes are the scenes at the end where her character's in the rain and she's wearing a very see-through shirt. She said she didn't think she looked good until the sprinklers turned on. Hey, as long as you feel pretty. In fact, as far as nudity goes, the tits and ass count for this Friday the 13th movie is reasonably decent. The last genuinely funny scene that I can think of is where this woman is standing in front of a mirror getting ready to party. She just unbuttons her shirt, showing off her chest, going, just so funny and just so... Woo! There it is! It's impossible not to laugh. And Juliet Cummings has a scene where she just, whoop, out of nowhere, takes off her clothes and goes to bed. And even though we don't get to see any real man nudity, the characters of Tommy and Eddie get some shirtless scenes. I guess that's the most positive thing I can say, other than the scenes where the annoying retards get either killed or beaten up, is when we get some good body shots. There's a lot more I could say about this movie if I had more time and possibly a co-host, but I think this is where I will end it. If I had to give it a rating, I would give this movie a 2.8 out of 10. This has probably not been the best Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning review you've ever seen, but try my best, and this has been the 99th big review I've done, and next review I'm doing will be the 100th review. Can't believe it's this close, and hope those of you who have stayed around the longest will enjoy it. And for anyone who is wondering what the 100th episode will be, who hasn't seen the videos where I've given a few hints, I will leave you with this.
Nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired.